Hey all, welcome to Parker's Reef. On today's episode, we're going to unbox my brand new calcium reactor. Alright guys, thanks for joining me here and welcome to Parker's Reef. Here we cover product reviews, local fish shop tours, reefers tanks, and of course, the build of my dream reef tank, which is just over behind camera there. Now, if you are a regular channel viewer, you will know that a little while ago I went out to a local fish store called Uni Hill aquarium, and I did drop a little mention there that I was probably going to pick up one of these here calcium reactors for my brand new dream reef tank. Now, it's been a good 4, maybe 5 weeks since then, and I haven't opened up this box yet. I haven't set up this calcium reactor yet because in all honesty, I don't actually need it on the tank. We're probably a good month to maybe more off from getting corals into that system. So it's not gonna need any sort of alkalinity, calcium, magnesium supplement or anything like that for realistically probably at least 3 months, but closer to 6 months. But this box has been sitting there. Sure, it's not taped down, but the box has been sitting there just staring at me, waiting for me to set it up. And I figured, why not do an unboxing of this calcium reactor? I'll show you why I chose this calcium reactor, what I love about it, what could be a little bit of an issue in the future, whatever it may be. So let's get on into the unboxing because this should be a little ripper. So I guess I probably should point out to start off with that this is a Seatorch calcium reactor. They have some absolutely beautiful equipment, including some brand new tanks that have just come out recently, and I did a video entirely on those new tanks as Seatorch are testing the market to see whether that's a direction they should go or not. But their media reactors and their calcium reactors have been out on the market for a fair while now, and I've been eyeballing them for a fair while, and I'm happy to say I finally got one. So I'm just going to open up this box here. This has been sitting in my garage for a while, so I'm just making sure there's no spiders or anything in here. We get a little printed out manual that looks, I must admit it, you know, it's kind of more of a brochure, shows you the different sizes. Oh, it does show you, give you a parts list, tells you a little bit how to set it up. My guess is if you have no idea how a calcium reactor works, that instruction manual may not be enough. But as a quick reference guide as to which port is the inlet, outlet, all that sort of jazz, that's good. We get some different colored hose. We've got clear, soft tubing. We've got black, hard tubing and red, hard tubing. We have a couple of diffuser plates. We have an Aquabee pump. Now this is a part that I'm super happy to be adding to the system. It is actually the reason why I chose the Seatorch calcium reactor. My Cove skimmer has been running beautifully, and that runs one of these Aquabee pumps. And when I saw that the Seatorch calcium reactor runs the same pump, I couldn't help but get onto it. They're so light on power usage, dead silent, built like a tank, happy days. So we've got a pump and some various fittings and bits and pieces there. We have a mixing system. Some more packaging. And then, maybe that's where that spider went. There's a bit of a squash spider in the bottom of this bag, but oh man, there's some weight in this. All right. Let's get jeepers. That box out of the way. All right, here we have it, the big Seatorch fancy bag. Seatorch always package their products so nicely. The size and weight of this box, you see the quality padding and stuff in there. Man, this stuff's just not going to get damaged in transit. But let's rip the box off and have a look at this bad boy. So we can get him out of this bag without embarrassing myself on camera. All right, we'll chuck that bag away. Here we have it. Here's the crux of the unit. I'm just going to quickly assemble this together now so we can have a look at it, and then I'll go over some of the features. All right, there we have it. Took a little bit more to work out the installation than it probably should have, and that's because I didn't really read the instructions until I ran into trouble, but this is a intricate bit of gear. It's very, very nicely made. This interesting thing here is this piece here, this tube with the red inner tube appears to be completely cosmetic. The water flows down through that red tube. There'll be nothing in this clear section here, which is strange, but we do have those little spiral fittings in there. That's the outlet of the pump, so that's gonna mix the air and, well, I say air, the oxygen, the CO2 and the water together as it goes down there. That then actually flows through this little base plate here up into our chamber, which will then bubble through all of the media. We've got two beautiful plates that then sit in there very nicely. I must admit, I thought they were identical. They are not. There's one that definitely sits on the bottom, one that definitely sits up the top. They're different sizes, so the bottom one can go down, the big one can't go down, obviously. Makes sense. The media will then come back up. We then have this recirculation section here, where it'll pull water down into this chamber where you can put your magnesium media separately to your rest of your arm, extra course, or whatever else you want to run. Magnesium meter goes in this one, which will then get drawn out through the top, the inlet of the pump here, and then pushed back through again. We've got our, I'll just double check to make sure I'm right. So we've got our maintenance port down the bottom here, which has just got a tap on it. So basically you can open that up to drain all the water out of this, which is handy because the number of times I've had to lift one of these out of a sump. Thankfully, this will just be in my cabinet. It won't actually sit in the sump. And when they're full of media and full of water, they can be freaking heavy. And if you don't have a lot of room to maneuver these things out of the tank, it's quite difficult. With the little tap down here in the maintenance port, you just crack that open, obviously with everything turned off, all the fluids will drain out. Now, obviously you don't want to be doing that if it's in your sump, but you could connect a hose to that and lead that out if you wanted to, catch it in a bucket, open the tap, let that all drain out. It'll obviously drain down to whatever height you have the bucket at, but that is a handy thing. The pH probe port on the top, fairly standard. You shouldn't find many calcium reactors that don't have a pH probe port. We've got, if I swing it around so you can see, this here, a bubble counter there. So our CO2 is going to come in through the top here. You've got a very nice clear bubble counter. So the CO2 will actually go down through that red tube and then it'll pop out at the front there and the bubbles will come up and get sucked in by the pump here. So you'll be able to see the bubbles nice and clearly. Beautiful built-in bubble counter. All right, next up you have your water inlet here, which has a tap built into it already to make it easy for you to dial that in. In fairness, I'll probably run that through a peristaltic pump, something like the Versa from Ecotech or the Kamoa FX STP2, just so I can basically digitally dial in how much flow is going through the calcium reactor rather than turning a tap and trying to get the effluent right. Interestingly, they do restrict the inlet and they leave the water outlet open, which is the way, I mean, you can always do it either way. I've always restricted the outlet, but people have suggested by restricting the inlet, you're less likely to block the outlet, which I guess makes sense, but it's just not the way I've ran them before. Now, a couple of other features, I've already touched on the Aquabi pump. We've got a really solid PVC and acrylic build. All of the bolts on this are titanium, which I love titanium, I really do. I use titanium back from my motorsport days and I use it wherever I can in my reef tank because it is just pure medical grade fasteners. However, I have to admit, opening the top here, and I haven't even screwed all of these titanium bolts all the way back down yet because I know I'm gonna have to open them up again soon. Whilst titanium looks cool and is absolutely not gonna rust, these were a little bit of a pain. I must admit, whilst a little bit uglier, I probably would prefer the nylon bolt that you just undo with your thumb, twist the head to the lid to the side and then lift it up. Does make for an uglier lid, but a little bit easier to service. But I guess it's the sort of thing you're probably going to be opening once a year, if that anyway, so no big deal. At least it does have high quality fixtures in it. Obviously we've got an Australian pump. This is the Aquabi Up UP3000, which runs at 40 watts of power. So we're going to be pushing quite a bit of flow through there. In fact, we're going to be flowing 3,000 litres an hour through the reactor, which is seems about right for a reactor this size. Now, touching on size, I'll try and find something to give you a reference. That's a 2-litre milk bottle. You can see it's a fair bit smaller, so this is a good size reactor. This one here is the SM-120, which has been listed in the manual as good for 1,200 to 2,000 litre tanks. Personally, I'd say it's probably good for 1,000 to 1,500 liters, but I guess that does depend on your alkalinity, calcium, magnesium supplement requirements. I do plan on running kalkwasser on this tank, so my calcium reactor requirements are not going to be quite as heavy because they're going to be supplemented by the kalkwasser. So I think this unit will fit in my 1,500 liter tank very, very nicely. In all fairness, the only difference between a small one and a big one is the amount of media you fit in it. The more media you've got, the less often you have to top that back up again. This guy here will hold 12 liters of media, which you know, is a fair bit. So you just don't want to have the effluent varying, because if you melt a bit of media, if you've only got a small reactor, you melt a bit of media, you've taken out half your media, your effluent's now not as strong, takes more gas to get it there, things become a little bit less stable. The bigger the reactor, the less maintenance, well, the less time you have to top off the media. I'm not sure about less maintenance, but the less amount of time you have to spend topping the media off, and the more stable your output will be as that media dissolves. Couple of other quick features I should point out. They do include a neat little pump adapter just to convert your, if you want to run a feed pump off like a little power head, gives you a nice neat little adapter to bring that into the John Guest style fitting. And then we also have a nice little check valve here too for the CO2, which is good because you don't want the water pushing back out into your CO2 regulator. Salt water and CO2 regulators tend not to play all that nicely together. All right, I guess there's not too much more else for me to do. I've got some media. In fact, I'll grab that now. For the magnesium section in this chamber here, I'm just going to be running the Continuum Mag React, which was what my local fish shop had. I have ran all sorts of magnesium medias before, from Zeomag, Neomag, Dolomite, and some others as well, I think. I've never ran the Continuum one before. I'm going to assume they're pretty similar. They all kind of look like a Dolomite style rock, which is fine. And then for my main section, I've got a few tubs of this. I just didn't bother bringing them all up here to show you. Extra Course is the media I run. I'm not going to tell you it's the best media in the world. I honestly don't know. It's just what I've always ran. My local fish shop carries this, and he pretty well always ensures he has a few tubs of this on the shelf. And to me, that's the most important thing. It's a great media. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. CaRX do a great job making it. I just haven't experimented with other aragonite-based medias. That's just what I can always get. And for me, like I said, it's the most important thing that I can replace that media with the exact like for like as this starts to burn through it. So Extra Course, Continuum Mag React. I'm going to load this bad boy up. I'll probably put it in the cabinet just so I don't use the space, but realistically I won't be hooking the CO2 up to this for a few months, but I just wanted to get it out of that bag. So hey guys, just a quick edit here from Future Sam. As I've gone to fill the media up in this reactor, I've recognized that it actually has a slightly different path for the water, and we've got this unit here, which is the pump, and this little mixing chamber here that I touched on, that the red piece is the pipe in the middle there is actually the only part that has any fluid going through it. This outer part is purely cosmetic. And these little spirals actually sit inside that tube to force the water and air to spiral around together. So it's an interesting little piece. But what I didn't recognize, so you have the inlet of the pump up here, the outlet of the pump down here. So the pump actually pushes the water down through those spiral sections there, through this little piece down the bottom, which I'll get you a close-up so you can see. That then goes through the base into the main chamber, which will bubble up. It then comes out of there through this interesting little piece. Comes out of there into the top. This pipe here that connects onto the main chamber just goes into the lid. So it just falls into the top of this tube. But the pump itself actually draws from the bottom of the tube. So the water will actually get pulled down through this chamber, then back up through that central pipe into the feed pump. So you've got water moving in all different directions, but it wasn't overly obvious until I pulled the whole unit apart to go to put media in there to just see the intricate ways in which the water moves throughout this reactor. Now, I must admit, it looks pretty cool, and I think it'll be pretty effective, particularly in keeping the gas suspended in the water column and mixing with the media. The one thing that does concern me a little bit is this little chamber down here that then flows into the main chamber, where it flows through the base. There's a pretty narrow little gap there. In fact, it looks like it'd be maybe about 5 mil that flows across into this central large chamber. The only thing that concerns me there is that if it gets a bit of detritus or sludge or something in there, okay, but I did actually find this piece here, which conveniently sits in there, which is going to stop any debris bigger than that going down into that chamber. And I assume if it's smaller than those holes, it's going to be fine to pass back through. So that answers that problem. All right, so last but absolutely not least is the one that everyone wants to know is what does a calcium reactor of this quality cost? Now, I'm here to tell you that these units are not cheap, unfortunately. This one here, as pictured, is $1,600 Australian, which is right up there. However, I must say that we don't seem to have a lot of calcium reactor options here in Australia anyway. And in fact, I've always ran Geo's Reef reactors, which I've had to bring in from America. Now, when you look at the price of the reactor itself, you add the exchange rate, you add freight, the price doesn't end up being that far shy of something here. You end up talking around about $1,300, $1,400 for something similar sized anyway from Geo's Reef. And I'm absolutely not by any stretch of the imagination saying that this is better than a Geo's Reef reactor. I've always loved my Geo's Reef reactors. I just wanted to try something a bit different. And the moment I saw these, it had that vertex look to it. In fairness, it's equal to or surpassing the vertex level of quality. Comes with that high quality Aquabee pump that I really like. It's a neat bit of gear. And as with other things in my dream reef tank, I just wanted to try something a little bit different from what I've done before. This is absolutely high quality gear. You only pay for it once, the quality lasts forever. I'm super happy with it. So I'm gonna load it up with some media, get it in that cabinet there. But I will probably wrap this video up here. It really was just an unboxing to show you the quality and some of the features of this Seatorch SM-120 calcium reactor. If you've enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, anything further you'd like me to follow up on this Seatorch calcium reactor, I recognize it is a bit different to the Geos I've ran before, with these 3 chambers, with the mixing parts, with the Aquabee pump up here. It's potentially a really cool bit of gear. I'm really excited to see what it does. So if there's anything you need me to follow up further on, just let me know down in the comments section and I'll personally respond to it. I'll do my best to make sure you guys get all the information you need on this calcium reactor. And as always, if you're yet to subscribe, please do. Just hit that little button down in the corner there. It won't cost you anything. It'll take 2 seconds of your time. And the only thing it'll do is it'll help me out on this YouTube venture, and it'll be sure to let you know next time I release a video on Parker's Reef. So as far as I can tell, win-win. Anyway, guys, I will leave it at that. Thanks so much for this quick unboxing. Till next time, stay safe, keep reefing.